Hi, and welcome to Long Live the Queen, where we talk about the women who made history. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. Today we're going to talk about The Hollow Crown, which is Shakespeare's King Henry IV, Part 2. Usually it's just me, but today I have my friend Crystal with me. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, Christina.
You ready to talk about Part 2?
Absolutely.
Part 1 ended with Falstaff being like, remember I killed this guy? And the king's like, or the prince is like, no, I killed that guy. And
Right. The Battle of
Falstaff's
Shrewsbury.
like, come on, give me some credit. So
Yeah.
we open and he's doing better since he fake died and fake killed Hotspur. He's got some money, it looks like. He's wearing nicer
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah.
And again, I said this last time, but he plays one of my favorite characters on House of the Dragon, Sir Simon Strong. He's just like, he's my favorite. I love him so much. But he also plays Dionysus in Thor, Love and Thunder.
Oh.
Which I feel like always sounds like a porn name to me. Like Thor the
Yes.
porn.
Yeah.
Love and Thunder.
They could have come up with a better name.
Right? So he's Dionysus, and he seems like he would be a good Dionysus. I don't remember
Yeah.
Dionysus. I feel like I saw that movie, but I don't remember.
I
Dionysus
saw
is
the
the blue
movie.
guy. That's all I remember about Dionysus.
Oh, it must have been when they were in Zeus's court, like that kingdom of
Yeah.
gods or whatever, when we got to see
That's
Thor's
probably when
best
it would have
feature.
been, yeah. And then there is a boy carrying like a little pot, little cauldron type thing. And we find out that it's Falstaff's urine in there, so that's a fun job.
Yum.
And the doctor's like, your urine seems healthy, but also you have a lot of diseases. So I don't even know what that means.
I think
Like
it's
at least you can still pee, but you are not a healthy man.
just a way to bring comic relief
Yeah,
already.
yeah. And yeah, Falstaff has way nicer clothes. Like, he's dressing and he's like, oh, he looks almost respectable in these new clothes since his battle where he didn't kill the rebels.
Yeah.
And then we are at the river with Northumberland. That, again, was played by Alan Armstrong. And he is in a movie called The French Lieutenant's Woman. Now, I've never seen this, but it sounds intriguing.
Don't
So it
I
was a
didn't see that.
1981 movie with Jeremy Irons, who is the king in this, and
Right?
Meryl Streep. And the
Okay.
two are lovers. Both one pair is in lovers in Victorian times and one is in modern times, but those two actors play both the lovers in both
Oh,
times.
interesting.
So, Jeremy Irons, Meryl Streep, they play two different love affairs in two different times. The French Lieutenant's Woman. I'm intrigued by this movie that I've never seen, but
Okay.
it came out when I was a baby. So I never watched it. And word comes in that Henry IV was killed and Prince Hal was killed. And he's like, oh my gosh, does that mean my son Percy won? But then more news comes and they're like, psych. So it turns out that other guy heard from a friend of a friend that his son had won. But the new guy is like, no, I was there. Your son is dead. He did not win.
Right. Yeah.
Falstaff basically killed him. So that's sad. Northumberland's obviously angry. He's like, this
Hmm.
sets up. What are they going to fight about this episode? They're going to fight
Yeah.
about this. And then we see Falstaff walking through court, and he pretends he's deaf. He tells the boy, tell him I'm deaf, tell him I'm deaf. Like, I didn't hear him, because the justice of the peace is, like, looking for him. The Chief Justice is played by Jeffrey Palmer, who worked... Now, my Whovians are going to love this fun fact, but if you're not a Whovian, you won't. He worked on Doctor Who in the time of the Third Doctor. So, the Third Doctor Who was, like, a big effing deal.
Really?
I guess
I
so.
am not a Whovian.
I'm not either, but this is word on the internet streets is that this is a big deal. So Jeffrey Palmer, he knew the Third Doctor. Shout
Okay.
out. Falstaff is like, I can't deal with this guy. Like, I'm broke and I have gout. Like, this whole thing sucks. Like, I look like I'm doing good, but I am falling apart.
Yeah,
And
wasn't
then,
he? Was he going after him for something that he did in the previous play?
Yeah, he was just kind of a scoundrel, right? So it's kind of
Okay.
just
Yeah.
like he looks nice, but he's still kind of a scoundrel.
Yeah.
And they say Lord Hastings has 25,000 men. They say 5 and 20,000. And they're talking about how Hotspur really tried to overthrow this king, but he failed. They still want to get rid of this king. They're like, boo, King Henry IV, we hate you.
Hmm.
And then we meet Humphrey and Thomas, who are Prince Hal's two of his brothers. He has three brothers.
Right.
And Thomas, spoiler alert, this isn't going to be a spoiler for the Hollow Crown because I don't think Shakespeare really talks about it. Thomas
Mm-hmm.
gets killed right after Hal becomes king
Oh,
by the
interesting.
French, and he goes to war, and that's where the king will end up dying. I mean, it's spoiler alert, but also it's history from hundreds of years ago, so I feel like it's not a major spoiler. But Humphrey, along with his brother John, who's not currently there, they will help run the country for Prince Hal's baby son king.
Okay.
So then the king shows up and John shows up, the third brother of the king, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean of the prince, and the king is like, "Sons, you should stick together. Like when your brother's king, I need all four of you to stick together."
Right.
And it does seem like they did. Like I don't know if he really said
Mm-hmm.
that or not. That's like a Shakespeare thing, but
Yeah.
they were like really supportive of their brother. They didn't ever try and overthrow him. They didn't. They were like helped his son. They were
Right.
super loyal. And then Falstaff and Mistress Quigley fight because, again, he owes her so much money that he keeps not
So
paying
much.
her.
Yeah.
And she says he ate her out of house and home and she wants him arrested. And he's like, would I do that to you? And she's like, but you did do that to me, asshole. And Falstaff's like, pull it together, Molly Weasley. Like, we can't just be fighting at court. Like, pull it together. And she's like, okay, fine, come by for supper. So it's kind of her own fault that he's eating her out of house and home because she keeps
Right. She
inviting him over.
let it go on too long.
Yeah, and she's continuing it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
stop inviting him over for dinner.
Well, didn't she say something about make me your wife or
Mm-hmm.
something? Yeah.
Yeah. Because then he wouldn't owe her the money anymore. Because then everything she had would be his. So
Yeah.
clear the debts. And then we see Prince Hal, and he's in a bathhouse with Poins, and I don't hate it. I like Tom Hiddleston. So they talk about how the king is sick, and the king was sick for a long time. He kind of just wasted away. Like you probably got the vibe from this
Yeah.
episode that he kind of just, it. They
He was always
say he
coughing
had
and
like leprosy, but also his
ooh.
symptoms are not consistent with leprosy. So they think it was just like some skin thing, and they were just using leprosy as like a
Yeah.
catch-all.
Yeah.
But he did have some sort of skin issue, and he was kind of just wasting away. Prince Hal is like, okay, so here's the problem. If I'm sad that my dad is sick, then people will call me a hypocrite. Because A, I've been a pretty shitty son. I don't really get along with my dad. And B, like I'm going to be the next king. So, like, it's just a
Right.
tough spot to be in. And Bardolph arrives and they ask him how Falstaff is. And they're like, I have a letter from Falstaff. And then Poins reads it, and it basically is like, don't trust Poins. Like, you can't trust him. He's a scoundrel. And he's like, what the hell? Like, why would he say that about me? And Prince Hal's like, well, you do kind of want me to marry your sister, which was in the letter. Like, he just wants you to marry his
Oh,
sister. And he's
yeah.
like, do I have to marry your sister? Spoiler alert, he does not marry Poins' sister.
No.
But you have to watch Henry V for that one. And then we see Falstaff eating at Mistress Quigley's, so she can't be that mad about him eating her out of house and home. I
Right.
feel like this is entrapment. She's like, come eat at my house till you owe me so much money you have to marry me. That is how you trap a man properly. And then there's a whole huge fight back. Percy's family's all upset because he's dead, and they all know that now. And they're like, you need to go to Scotland. They hate this guy too. We could
Hmm.
team up. We could take this guy out. Down with Henry IV. Boo. And then we're back to the king, and he's like, everyone's asleep, but I can't sleep. This sucks. He's just an old guy who can't sleep now, and he's sick, and he's like, I'd rather be asleep. And then he monologues all night long, which is probably why he can't sleep. It seems like anxiety to me if you have to monologue
Yeah.
all night long.
Yeah.
And then we're back at the tavern, and Doll Tearsheet is sick. And then there's a big old fight over Doll. Like, who gets Doll? She's like puking in a bowl. And then
Right.
they fight over it, and then she kisses one of the guys, and I'm just thinking, oh my
Oh.
gosh, she was just
Oh.
vomiting.
Oh.
Like, rinse your mouth out with some ale or something.
Right.
Something. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then there's a huge tavern brawl. So I forget about that, but ew, gross. It traumatized me when I saw it. And Doll seems like she's in love with Falstaff too. Why are all these bitches in love with
I
Falstaff?
I don't know.
They're all in
Because
love with him. And he
he's
is,
nothing to write home about.
no, he is problematic at best. He's definitely an alcoholic. And he never pays his bills. He gets in random fights all the time.
He's constantly lying.
Yeah. And then the music player arrives, and the Falstaff's like assistant kid and the music player just sitting like in the corner of the room while he just makes out with Doll. And she's like on his
Right.
lap, and I'm like, this is so awkward. Like, I just turn on my earbuds, you know? Like, I don't
Yeah.
need a whole audience watching me.
But that musician was a setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because the king and Poins are like, they're sneaking in to like spy on them, so they're like watching
Well,
from the
the
roof too.
prince. He's the prince right now,
Oh
right?
yeah, I keep calling him the king because at the end he is the king.
Yeah.
The prince and Poins are watching from the ceiling. They're just being like little creepers. So they've got a whole fucking audience watching them. It's so awkward. And
Well,
they're
he hears
oh sorry, go ahead.
they overhear Falstaff saying bad stuff about
Mm-hmm.
Hal.
Yeah. And Doll says Poins has a good wit, but why does the king like him so much? Like he's such a loser. Meanwhile, she's in love with Falstaff. And he's like, I know
Right.
you were just vomiting, but let's make out. This is a whole
Ugh.
situation. And Falstaff kind of just says, like, they're both young and healthy, like, they're peers. It makes sense that they'd be friends, but also, yeah, I don't get it either. And Falstaff and Doll canoodle while Prince and Poins watch along with their little kid assistant and their musician. So awkward. And then Falstaff's like, sorry, I'm old, because I think he can't get it up. Is
Oh.
that the impression you got? He's just like they were making out, and then he's like, oh, sorry, I'm old, and they just stop. It
Yeah,
kind
I
of
just
felt like he had a little
felt like he was
ED.
tired, like he didn't have the like he's so old and decrepit, he
Yeah.
just doesn't have the energy
Oh,
for it.
see, I
Not even
definitely thought it was a situation with ED.
okay.
But
So it
maybe
could
it
be
could be
both.
either. Both. It could be any of those things. Basically, he can't do it because it's been a long day and he's elderly. And then
And because you can show that stuff on stage.
right? And then he calls Francis, and then Hal and Poins jump out, and they're all anon, anon, which is probably supposed to remind us of the last
Yeah.
play where they were
Good
anoning
joke.
him,
Yeah.
anoning Francis. And Mistress Quigley's like, oh shit, the prince. And she's not like, why is Doll her employee? Like, she works
I
there?
think so.
So
Like
she's not
she
like,
just
why is my employee making out with my lover or my boyfriend or my hopeful fiance? She's like, oh shit, the prince is here. And Poins is like, why you talk shit on me in front of these honest women? Like, you're such a scoundrel, Falstaff. And Falstaff's like, I'm a good friend to your dad, and your dad would thank me, so shut up. Like, I'm older than you. You're just young and stupid. And then Prince Hal tells Falstaff goodnight. And Poins is like, fine, like, we should have killed him, but fine, we can leave. He begrudgingly goes too. And Bardolph says a dozen captains are at the door, and Falstaff is like, yikes, and Doll's upset. And even Mistress Quigley's upset, and she's commiserating with Doll, like, yeah, I'm upset too. I've known him for 29 years.
oh,
Meanwhile, they both want to get with him, and I just don't get it. He is my favorite character in Game of Thrones, but House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. But
Yeah.
I do not get the Falstaff appeal. And then we're back at the king, and the king's like, we're in trouble. Our kingdom is sick. Like, everyone's still rebelling. This killing Percy did not fix this. Like, people are sick of this. I'm sick of this shit. I'm also sick. I'm dying. And then we see Warwick, who is Sir Jorah Mormont on
Yes.
Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And then we see Bardolph talking to the Justice of the Peace, and Falstaff arrives, and and they're trying to pick army, but they're basically just getting the lamest guys. Like, one guy's like, they're like, what do you do for a job? And he's like, I'm a woman's tailor. And they're like, yeah, let's take him.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're picking out, like, guys for the army, but Falstaff's, like, terrible at it. He always gets the worst guys, and
well, it's because he wants the money.
He takes the payoffs for sure.
Fight with money, they will pay him to.
Yeah, anyone who can pay him off, he'll take it, because he's always a broke bitch. How does he owe Mistress Quigley so much money? He gets so much money. What does he spend it on?
Probably more booze.
But that's what he gets from Mistress Quigley.
I don't know.
I don't even know. Then we see John, Duke of Lancaster, the prince's brother.
Right.
He's kind of known in history as being the more responsible brother. He's the more diplomatic brother. He's the one who grows up to be married to Jacquetta of Luxembourg. And then she, after he dies, she gets married again to a knight, and she has a daughter who's the Queen of England. So this is like 6 degrees of separation or whatever, but that's where he is in history. He's kind of like the responsible one, whereas Humphrey is more of like the playboy, the fun time guy. He was
when you're third or fourth.
Yeah, he was more into like the war and stuff, whereas John was more into like being diplomatic and doing the paperwork and stuff.
Right.
Lord Hastings is arrested for high treason because there's all kinds of uprisings. People are sick of Henry IV. They're like, Richard was supposed to be the king, and you just skipped over a whole bunch of people just to become king. And the king is even sicker now, and we kind of see the end coming. Like, he's not getting better. He's sicker every time you see him. And the princes are all there, and they say that the king needs rest, and Prince Hal shows up to, like, sit with his father. So they leave him alone because, like, this is a moment. Like, if the king dies, Hal's the new king.
But before that, like, when he was in his bed, he's like, bring me my crown. And he puts it on the pillow next to him.
It's on his pillow. And that is important because does Hal sit with his father? No, he does not. He does not sit with his father. He thinks his father has stopped breathing. So he picks up the crown and he monologues. He's holding the crown. He's wandering around. He gets to the throne. He sits on the throne with the crown. But he jumped the gun because then his dad just is breathing, and he just wakes up and he's like,
where's my crown?
Where the hell is everybody? And where's my crown? And his brothers run in. They're like, we left him with you. And he's like, well, he's not here. Where'd he go? And where'd my crown go? So they go looking for him, and they find him. It's so awkward. How cringe is that if you're sitting on your dad's throne wearing his crown because you think he's dead, and then he walks in the room with a whole bunch of people, and you're just sitting there like a dork on a throne.
That's like next door to treason.
Right? I feel like it totally is treason. Like 100%.
Although the excuse he gives it seemed valid.
He was like, if he thought his dad was dead, he's like, oh, fuck, now I'm the king. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like, my dad always told me what a screw-up I was. Like, I don't know if I can do this. So it makes sense that he would have done it, but how awkward. And then King Henry IV throws him off the throne. And he's like, my kid is so rude. And Hal's like, my bad. I thought you were dead. Like, you know. And the king's like, no, it's fine. God probably told you to take my crown. Like, God, you probably did that because you were inspired by God. And Hal's like, yeah, definitely. And then the king collapses again because he is actually dying. And then the king is dead. Long live the king. And Prince Hal is now King Henry V. And Falstaff's super excited. He's like, my guy is king. this is amazing. And then it goes back to the king and the new king, Henry V.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it shows him with his brothers, and his brothers look terrified, all three of them. And he's like, don't be scared. This isn't Turkey. This is England. And I was like, ooh, sick burn on Turkey. Like, wow. But they're sticking together. They're
That's right, because
brothers.
they didn't want him to kill them or
Mm-hmm.
have them killed so that they couldn't usurp the throne.
Exactly. They weren't sure. But they were loyal. He was loyal. They were good brothers. They were a group of 4 good brothers. One of them, Thomas, is about to get killed in France. And then King Henry V will follow him not long after. And then Humphrey and John will kind of spar with each other as far as like one's very diplomatic and logical and one's very like, let's have a party and then go to war. So then the king like looks around the room and he's like, why is everyone looking at me so weird? And they're like, what do you mean? And he's like, 'cause I know you fucking hate me. I remember how you were when I was the prince. Like, you guys are
Mm-hmm.
all a bunch of traitors. I remember. And then he sits on the throne. Everyone's like, shit, I hope he forgets soon. Because he was a mess and we treated him like a mess. And now he's the king. And no one knows what's going to happen because up until now he just hangs out in bars all the time.
Right.
And then they get notification that the king is in fact dead. And they ask how dead. And he says, dead as a nail in the door. Which I feel
Oh.
like is a little rude. Like deader than a used up broken ass nail. Because doornails were like low quality at the time. So
Oh,
once they were used, you
you
couldn't use
couldn't
them
use them
again.
again.
You couldn't pull
Okay.
them out and use them again. They were basically destroyed in the process of these
Okay.
doors. So that's where dead as a doornail comes from.
Okay.
But it seems rude thing to say about the king. Like imagine. Now, I know this is treason, but I'm not English, so I can say it. Imagine King Charles dies tomorrow and someone's like, but how dead is he? And he's like, dead as a doornail. Is that not disrespectful?
A little bit. Yeah.
Although I guess that was like a new saying. Maybe it was like clever and like, I don't know. Like now
Yeah.
it's like a cliche.
Right.
I don't know, but it seemed rude. But it's because you couldn't reuse the doornails. They weren't pointy enough to use anymore. They would be destroyed.
Okay.
And Falstaff's like, damn, I want to go see my friend the king. Like, this is sweet. This is what, like, we've been looking forward to when we were
Yeah,
pretending that
he's
we
my
were this
buddy.
king in the bar.
He's gonna hook me up.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they were, like, just in the bar last play, like,
Mm-hmm.
pretending to be that very same king and talking about
Yeah.
what a disappointment Hal was. And then we see Prince Hal is crowned King Hal now. He's King Henry V.
Mm-hmm.
And he's quite famous. He's well thought of. People are like, he was a hell of a battler, so he's got a good reputation. And Falstaff is trying to get to him, and everyone's all, God save the king, and Falstaff yells out, God save thee, my sweet boy. And King Hal is like, Falstaff, you shut the fuck up. I do not know you. Like,
Hold up. Yep.
who this? I don't know you. Lose my number. I'm the king now.
New crown. Who dis?
Yes, exactly. You knew Prince Hal, but remember when my dad came back and he was like, no, I was banished the Earl of Hereford. Now I'm the Duke of Lancaster, so I can come back? Same thing. Now I'm the king and you don't know me. And he banishes Falstaff not from England, but Falstaff can't come within 10 miles of the king.
Okay.
So he's like, I don't want to see you. Like, I'm the king. You don't know
Yeah.
me.
I thought that was kind of sad, though.
This is a
That
whole
made me
I don't
sad.
know her moment. Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
sure. And it doesn't get happier. Spoiler in the beginning of Henry V. I mean, they basically start off where they're estranged, and it doesn't start with a happy reunion.
Right. Yeah.
And scene. That is the end of the play. It's not my favorite of the
Yeah.
plays. So the next
Right.
play is Henry V, and that's where we find out how Prince Hal does as a king.
Okay. That's the we marry few, we band of brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because he's the war guy. He's like,
Right.
spoiler alert, basically a reincarnation of his great-grandfather, Hammer of the Scots. So he's like
Which one was he? Was he Edward?
the first.
Okay.
Actually, is that his great-grandfather? That might be farther than that. We have Henry V, Henry IV, His dad was John of Gaunt. Edward the Third. Oh, it's way farther than that.
Okay.
Second, first. So this is him. His dad is grandpa, great, two, three times great grandfather.
Okay.
So he's. I mean, I guess Edward the First, Edward the Third, Henry the Fifth. They're the ones who were good at war.
Okay.
So he's seen as like another one of those, and that's when England prospered the most in that time period. Is when they were doing the best at war. So
I saw the a long time ago. I saw the Kenneth Branagh version of Henry V.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
You'll be remembered.
Thanks for listening.